Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hello. If you do not have your actual name on your Zoom tag, if you hover over your face, there's three little dots. You can rename yourself, and this way I can know who we've got on here. Hello, Will. Hello, Lance. Hello, Robin. Got the one and only Steven Reinstein. What is going on? Market Muscles in the house. Hello, Miss Jen. Nice to see you. Awesome, guys. We're going to give it about a minute or so, and then we are diving in. I'm really pumped for this webinar. A lot of prep went into this. I have literally been staring at spreadsheets for the last week, compiling the data for this, and really excited to share it with you. If you guys in the chat, let me know, where are you from? Is it freezing where you're at? Or is it like in the 60s where I'm at? Put your city in the chat box. Let me know where you're coming from. Hello, Mr. Miller. Hello, Riley. Ooh, Washington. That's got to be cold. I don't know. Just can't do it. Miss Jen, you're just like me, right? We're in the low 70s and it's hoodie weather already. Tampa, another Tampanian. I love it. Very cool. Oh, Colorado, 33 degrees, sir. I am not jealous at all. All right, guys, let me go ahead and let's dive into this. Thank you so much for popping on. And I'm actually going to go live in our martial arts entrepreneurs group as well. And yes, we are live stream. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. All right. So a couple of months ago, I did a webinar on ways to increase lead quality. And when I went through that webinar, I went over a study that was published in the Harvard Business Review. And we're going to kind of dive into that because that particular study was done for a few years, but it was across all of these different industries. And the data that it was showing, just like in my gut, I was like, okay, this is cool that they did this, but what would this really look like in our industry, a martial arts, right? A brick and mortar service-based business that isn't a typical 9-to-5 type of workplace. So like I said, over the last few days, I have been diving into spreadsheet after spreadsheet to put this data together. And some of the findings, were really eye-opening. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And we are going to dive into best practices for online lead response management. Can you guys just give me like a thumbs up if you can see my screen and my keynote here? Are we good? Awesome. I like the thumbnails. And let me just get my chat box over here in case you guys have questions. Perfect. Okay. So one of the things that, if you've been following me for a while, if you've heard me speak on stage, if you've been to a webinar of mine, if you've read my book, The Best Known Dojo, I absolutely love this phrase, which is math is the path. I describe myself as a pretty emotional person, and it's something I've kind of had to tame down, stepping into a leadership role with being a business owner. And we want to make sure that we are making data-driven decisions, not just emotional decisions or decisions based off of, what we think we should do. And that's why I love this phrase, math is the path. It's actually one of our core values here at GrowPro, because I want my team also making data-driven decisions. I'm a martial arts school owner, just like you guys, and I have a program director. And I'll never forget, this was about 6 years ago. She's been with me for about 6 years. And she was just getting started. And she came to me and she's like, Professor Chris, there are a ton of these parents that are complaining about this thing. They don't even remember what it was. And she would use phrases like all of these parents, or a lot of these parents, or a ton of these parents. And I would stop her and I say, well, tell me the names of those parents. And typically it would be like maybe 1 to 2 to 3 people, right? Out of a school where we have 300 students, 1, 2, or 3 would be complaining about this thing. And I had to get her into the habit of not utilizing phrases like everybody or all of these people or a ton of these things. Tell me the actual names of those people, because if it's only 1 or 2 or 3, we know in our business when we make a change, whether it's to the schedule, whether it's with the programs that we're offering, we're never going to make everybody happy. So when we are making decisions in terms of our systems and processes and our marketing in our school, they need to be data-driven decisions. Let me ask you guys, can you drop in the chat, for those of you that have like a program director or a front desk person, what time do they come in to work? So just go ahead, put like whatever time that is. If it's 2 p.m., if it's 12 p.m., 1 p.m., thank you, Riley. Riley says 12 p.m. What time does your program director come in? 1 p.m., 4 to 9, 9:30 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m. All right, so we're kind of seeing more of the afternoon, right? Which is typical, what we see in the martial arts industry. Maybe in some, exceptions, if you have early morning classes, you'll have somebody come in earlier, but it's typically like 12 p.m. and on is often what you see in regards to having program directors and front desk people come in, because prime time for us is around 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and they've got to stay until the end of classes. So because of that, more than likely, your lead follow-up isn't happening until later on in the day. Well, what data do you have to show that that is the actual best time for them to do lead follow-up? And that's what I really wanted to unpack for us and our industry. So like I said, in August, I did this webinar called 5 Ways to Improve Lead Quality. And I shared this study that was published in the Harvard Business Review. And if you want to watch that webinar, I dropped a link. All of my webinars, I've done almost 30 of them over the last 2 years, are in there. So if there's something specific, maybe you want to learn more about Google Business Profile or getting more Google reviews or organic social media marketing, there's probably a webinar in there for you. So this best practices for lead response management, they were focusing on how they could maximize results with minimal effort. And they actually examined 3 years of data from 15,000 unique leads. I thought those number of leads was very low compared to the length of time. I mean, we generate tens of thousands of leads in GrowPro for our clients every single month, and over 100,000 call attempts. But here was the thing. It said it was across many companies, right? So it didn't even list which companies those were, but they were responding to web-generated leads. The study goes into when to make calls, like the best days to make calls. And when I saw this and it said that Wednesdays and Thursdays, and there was like a 49% difference between Tuesday and Thursday, this felt off for me. I know when I first started my academy and I was wearing all the hats and I was the one doing the calls and booking the appointments, I felt like we actually had stronger attempts of connecting with people earlier on in the week. But again, this is across all different industries, right? And then it talks about the best times to make contact. And it said it was ideally between 3:30 and 5:30 and 7:30 and 8:30. And I had always seen, specifically kind of during lunchtime, an increase of our ability to connect with people when we were making follow-up calls. So I wanted to really dive in, like, what are the best times for us to be following up with those leads? It then goes into response time. I mean, you hear this all the time in the marketing world that you've got to be following up within 5 minutes. One of the cool things about utilizing like one of the industry standard websites like Market Muscles is you're going to get a notification when that lead comes in. If you're working with a marketing company, they should be sending you that notification. And, it's pretty cool when that person is still on the website or they're still looking at the ad and you're already calling them. And we hear this often with our concierge agents when they're doing lead follow-up for our clients, where people are just kind of blown away and saying, wow, you guys are really fast. I just put my information in. And I think that really helps to set the tone of having top-notch customer service, okay? They then go into talking about persistence, right? And we've all heard the phrase, fortune is in the follow-up. However, you do have to be careful of being too persistent. I remember a few months ago, I was looking into getting a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. And I was just kind of doing some research online. It was on the weekend, and I put an application in on lendingtree.com where they basically send it out to all of their different lenders. This is no exaggeration. I was getting over 20 calls a day, all different phone numbers, all different lending, and they were so aggressive. This was nonstop for almost a month. And I would, you couldn't even like track the phone numbers because they were all of these different numbers from the same company because they had their agents who are remote workers reaching out. And I like swore off that company that I would never do business with them because I literally felt like I was getting attacked. So there is, a difference between being persistent and being overly aggressive. And especially when you have automations that are already involved on top of additional personal reach out, you got to be careful with that, right? But I will say from our data, in terms of the amounts of times that we are reaching out, this is accurate, right? The more the better, but it's got to be spread out so you're not, again, attacking people and being overly aggressive. They then went in and, I think for the most part, school owners that understand the investment into a industry standard website, an industry standard CRM, that, and you guys, right, you're investing your time because you know that it's important to develop your skills. I think for a lot of the people, especially on this call, that you guys already have automated text messages that go out when somebody opts into their website. Let's just see. Can you drop a 1 in the comments if when somebody opts in, they're getting some form of automated text message, and a 2 if they're not? Let's just see. Awesome. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Troy. All right. All right. So we got a couple of 2s. Those of you that are 2s, when I go into the data, it might show you that, this is potentially something you want to switch over. So that's great. I'm glad to see you guys are doing that. And this study said 77.17% never received a phone call. And I have to tell you, we work with, it's about 310 martial arts schools all over the United States. And the schools that perform the best in terms of lead to appointment and then appointment to show are the ones that actually pick up the phone. And I often hear, well, Chris, nobody answers their phone. People only want to text or email. I would strongly suggest you implement what we call the trifecta, which is phone call, text message, and email, because it's a very blanket statement for you to say, nobody wants to pick up the phone, right? It's kind of like my general manager saying, all of the parents are saying this, okay? But I think what often happens is they get that first phone call, and then they go into the black hole of leads that didn't pick up on the first time, and we just forget to continue to follow up with them because of everything else that is going on. The last kind of thing that they had touched on in terms of the immediacy of response is that the average phone response time was 44 hours. I mean, guys, that's almost 2 full days before people were actually picking up the phone. One of my favorite quotes is, money loves speed. All right. And you need to make sure that you have speed in order to lead, to be the leading martial arts school in your marketplace, because whether they found you, let's say they found you online and, they put in, your prospect put in their contact information. They've now initiated with your martial arts ad, which means they're going into an audience of people that are interacting with a martial arts ad. So guess what? They're going to start seeing other martial arts schools ads in your area as well. And if they went on Google to find you, you weren't the only martial arts school that popped up. So we have to remember that if this person is looking and researching, they probably didn't just submit their information to my school. They probably submitted it to a couple of the other schools that are also conveniently located for them. Now, I will say, those of you with really high Google reviews, if you know how many Google reviews you have, can you drop them in the comments for me? I think we're at like 230. How many Google reviews do you have? Ooh, I like it, Will. 300, Pedro's 100. I like these triple digits, guys. These triple digits truly put you in a separate league. I've done quite a few webinars on ways to increase your Google reviews. Awesome numbers, very good. And typically the school that is conveniently located and has the most Google reviews gets the first at bat, right? They're the ones that are going to get clicked on first. So the last thing this study talked about was persistence, and that the average persistency was about 4.5 touches. So 4.5, whether that's emails, texts, phone calls, postcards, and the recommended persistence was about 12. And this is definitely in line with what we found when we went through our data. Okay, so I did this follow-up study and I wanted to answer these 3 questions. What are the best days to make phone calls? What are the best times to make calls? And how many touch points are really required in order to book the appointment? Okay. With particularly Facebook ad leads, it's important to understand a Facebook lead versus a Google lead, right? A Google lead is somebody that has intent. They went on Google to find a martial arts school. A Facebook lead is somebody that was interrupted as they were scrolling. They were put in an audience either based off of their demographics, their location, or their previous behaviors online. And this study specifically touches those Facebook leads, which can typically take more energy and more follow-ups than somebody that is actively searching for a martial arts school. So I really wanted to see, like, for people that aren't actively searching and they gave information based off of an ad that they saw while they were scrolling, how many touch points were needed. So back in August, I launched this concierge agent program. What we do is we offer 5-minute follow-up with leads Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. We have in-person US-based callers. So these are not, I'm not outsourcing this to Pakistan or the Philippines. We're really the only one in the industry that has in-person US-based callers. And it costs me a lot more to do it this way. But when these people pick up the phone, we didn't want there to be any language barriers. And we wanted to make sure that your brand was represented the way that you wanted it to be represented. We do a minimum of 6 outbound touch points. And what we've really been testing is this kind of phone call to text message. How many phone calls, how many text messages? I'm going to share with you exactly what we have found to be working really, really well for our setters to be booking at 80%, 81% lead to appointment ratio. And we also use our proven scripts. Okay, so that's how I was able to gather this data, is from this program that we've been running. So here are a couple of the study parameters, right? The data that I looked at, and I wanted it to be super relevant to right now, like what is going on right now. So I did it for the last 4 weeks. It was from October 24th to November 18th. All right, so 4 weeks. And what I compared was, we have clients that we just run their ads, whether it's Facebook and Instagram, whether it's Google, We have clients we just do social media management for and database reactivation. And then we have our CAP clients, our concierge agent program. So these are the clients that we're actually doing the lead follow-up for. And I wanted to compare the non-CAP clients, so our clients that are using our CRM, that they are booking the appointments in there. That's how I was able to gather that data, versus the clients that are using our program. And was there any differences, right? And I mean, ideally, I wanted to see that our CAP program was outperforming martial arts schools that are either doing it, the owner is doing it themselves, or they are delegating it to a program director or front admin person. And I was really wanting to see what those lead to appointment ratios are and what are the best days to call, times to call, and the call to text output, right? So if we booked 25 appointments, how many calls and text messages on average did it take to get those 25 appointments? And I think the data is going to be a little shocking to you. So all of the data was pulled out of this CRM. It's called High Level. High Level is a white label CRM. If you're working with an agency, 99% of them are using this, and it's white label, meaning we can change what it looks like inside. As you can see, I've got my branding on it with the Grow Pro heart. I've got our colors, but it's all the same kind of bones, right? This isn't a CRM that we built ourselves. We are white labeling it through this company called High Level. And inside of High Level, they keep all of the stats. As you can see, I'm in what's called the agency dashboard here. And you can literally see like how many users, how many numbers of contacts are in there, calls, how many calls went out, how many calls came in, the average time that you're on the calls. So this is where I pulled all of this data from, was from this CRM, okay? So I went ahead and I looked at, for the last 4 weeks, schools that are actively using High Level. And we have, like I said, over 300 clients, but not even half of them are actually using this prospecting CRM. For some of them, they just don't want to have to worry about logging into another CRM. They'd rather their leads just get dumped into their current CRM, which we can absolutely do. So for those clients that were doing that, I'm not able to log into their Pulse CRM or their Spark CRM to get the data. So I only use the schools that were actively using High Level. And it was about 130 of them that were actively using High Level. And I've blurred out the schools' names just for privacy purposes, but I downloaded all of their information. And over the last 4 weeks, these schools were averaging 29, right? If we round up, 29 leads over the course of 4 weeks and 16 appointments booked over the course of 4 weeks. And if you do the math, that puts them at about a 57 lead to appoint ratio across the board. Okay. Now, for some people, they might think that that is awesome, 57%. So if I get 10 leads, 5 of them are going to book. Some people might be really happy with that. Some people might not, right? Just kind of depends on what you're currently doing and you're comparing it to that. When I looked at our CAP agents and our CAP program, they were averaging 36 leads, so slightly higher lead count, and 29 appointments booked, which put them at an 80.5% lead to appointment ratio. Now, this is the average across the board with all of the schools. This was pretty eye-opening to see that what we are doing is actually working. So instead of 10 leads coming in and only booking 5, 10 leads coming in and booking 8, right? And then you could just scale that up. And if you know your appointment to show and show to close ratio, then you can reverse engineer how many enrollments is that equating, right? If we can just move one of those numbers up, whether it's more leads, whether it's more appointments booked, then our enrollments are going to increase as well. So I put this kind of in a graph just for visual purposes. I'm, really visual person. But these are the number of leads that came in versus the number of appointments were booked for non-CAP versus our CAP clients. And this was one of the things that, right? So that answered my question. Like, is our program working for our clients? The answer is 100% yes. If you look at this client here, their name is blurred out, and I'm not going to call their name out, but this particular client in 4 weeks got 101 appointments. In 4 weeks, 101 appointments. They completely had to revamp their schedule and their intro process because their current schedule, they literally did not have enough room for these incoming prospects. And for some schools, that would completely break them, right? Just depends on the amount of team and the systems and processes you have in place. So the next thing we wanted to answer was, well, what are the best days to call? Now, full transparency, we are not calling on Saturday and Sunday. This is not something that we have implemented into this program. It's something we 100% plan on doing. But when I put my name on something, I want to make sure we do it the right way. And in order for us to have agents in office on the weekends, that required leadership people to be in office that are overseeing them as well. So our ultimate game plan is to be able to offer this from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is when most schools start kind of closing down. I know some schools might run a little bit later, 9 to 10, but kind of phone calls after 8 o'clock to me is kind of an invasion of privacy per se. And then also on the weekends, okay? So what we found, and this really was in line with what I thought just from my own time spent, was that the biggest booking days for us were on Monday and Tuesday, and then it slowly tapered down Wednesday and Thursday, and then dropped down on Friday. So kind of cool to be able to see this in a percentage. Out of those 4 weeks, the appointments that we booked, 23% of them, almost a quarter of them, were being booked on Monday. And I think this is really important for you to recognize, because oftentimes Monday, if you did not prepare the night before or the week before, can kind of turn into being a firefighter, putting out all of the fires from the emails and the calls and the text messages that come in over the weekend. And oftentimes, what is happening on Mondays with your team? Usually there's some form of a meeting that's in place, right? I have my leadership team meeting on Mondays. Our instructors meet. They have a quick stand-up meeting. So we've got to make sure that there's enough time blocked on Monday specifically to book those appointments. Tuesday went down to about 20%. And then Wednesday and Thursday were right around the same, 16.6, 16.8. And then it dropped down to 14.3. Now, we did have some appointments that were booked on Saturday and Sunday because we have automations that are built into our concierge agent program, which highly recommend you have automations. One of the benefits of automations is that it's working while you're not. It could be working while you're sleeping per se. And about 5% were booked on Saturday and 4% booked on Sunday. Now, I said this earlier. I want to put this disclaimer out there. Could these percentages be higher if we were actively calling on Saturday and Sunday? And the answer is yes. I think Sunday is not a day that I would necessarily want, somebody reaching out on the phone all day, but Saturday 100%, because a lot of schools are open on Saturday. So the next thing I wanted to look at, cool, Monday and Tuesday, man, those are like our gung-ho. We need to make sure we've got a solid amount of time that we are reaching out and booking appointments on. Then what I wanted to see was, what are the times, right? What are the times that we are connecting, that people are actually picking up the phone? So one of the cool things about our CRM, all of our agents make their phone calls through this CRM, which means all of our clients can listen back to the phone call. You can literally hear the phone calls that they make. And the CRM can put out a report of all of the outbound calls, all of the inbound calls, and whether or not those outbound calls were answered. So what I did is I took the data from the schools and I looked at the times that people were actually picking up the phone, not just us doing the call, but us doing the call and then picking up the phone. And what we found, which I thought was a little surprising, was between 9 and 10 a.m. was the highest volume of people actually picking up the phone, 17%. 10 to 11 was between this 13 to 14.8, and 12 p.m. it was almost at 16%. So this is showing that like 9 a.m. and noon are the times that we are able to actually get a hold of the leads. And I had sat down with my concierge agent team when I was preparing this webinar, and I just wanted to hear their kind of like, instinctual reaction. And I asked them, I'm going to look at the data, but you guys tell me, when do you think, are the best times for you to get in contact? And Marina, one of our agents, she said from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., it's fire. It's nonstop. People are picking up the phone. And then she says, but at 1 p.m., it just completely stops. And it was so true when I looked at the data. Look what happens at 1 p.m. It went down to 3.4%. And then it starts picking up as we get closer to that 5 p.m. time slot. Now, again, I do not have data from 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. However, not many martial arts schools have the bandwidth of their team being able to make those calls, because what is your team doing? They're servicing your customers, right? Your instructors are on the team. Your program director is meeting with intros that are coming in. They're selling pro shop items. They're building rapport with parents. So I thought this, was really interesting. And is our industry missing a huge chunk of potential really great follow-up time because your program director isn't coming in until 1 p.m.? Just something to think about. And our data is showing is that between 9 and 12 is absolutely a really great time to reach out. So let's kind of dive into what have we done. And this is something that has evolved since we started. One of the things that we really wanted to be able to do, and guys, I'm just all about being transparent here, was we wanted to be able to do a double call on the first day the lead came in. So if the lead came in at 9 a.m., we wanted to be able to call them and then call them again later on in the day. From a scaling perspective, this was nearly impossible for us. If, let's say, a client, and some of our clients do get this many leads, had 25 leads come in just that day, that's 50 calls just for that day for that one client. And unfortunately, it just was not scalable, because we're also having to make follow-up calls of leads that came in the previous weeks. So in a perfect scenario, I do believe that if a lead comes in the morning, call them, leave a voicemail. We have an automated text message that we send out if they don't pick up, which I'm going to share with you in a second. But I would also give them another call later on that day. Okay, we just were not able to scale that with our program yet. Okay, so the lead comes in, we call them within 5 minutes. We do leave a voicemail if they don't pick up. And if they don't pick up, an automated text message goes out. So what's really cool with the system that we use and that we call through is that we can set up an automation that only fires if that person doesn't pick up. Because if you're on the phone with the person and you're talking to them, and it then sends a text message asking them if they're interested in martial arts, your tech and your human being reaching out, they're not aligning. Okay. And then we also have an automated email. Day 2 comes along. If they didn't pick up the phone, if we couldn't get a hold of them via text or email, we will do a second day phone call, and they'll get another automated text only if they don't pick up. Because if they pick up, we don't want that text message going out. We then start to space it out a little bit. And this was just that kind of thought process of, we want to be persistent, but we don't want to be so aggressive that this person now equates the name of our school to some negative thought, right? I don't think any of us want that. So we then do a day 5 call, a day 10 call, a day 14 automated text, which is, what we call the magic text message in the martial arts industry, which is just, are you still interested in martial arts? Right? It's a yes or no question. if you have not done some form of database reactivation campaign where you are reaching out to all of your old leads, we do this twice a year where we send this, we blast this out via email and text message at my school. And it's, what is that, 7 or 8 words? Are you still interested in martial arts? That's it. And you'll get some people that say no, unsubscribe me. Guys, there's nothing wrong with getting people to unsubscribe. All right. They're just not viable prospects anymore. And then we do a day 20 phone call. So there's basically those 6 touches within, under 3 weeks. And again, this has evolved, but this is what we are currently doing, which allowed my setters, my agents, to be booking at an 80.5% conversion rate. Okay. So what have we learned from this process? The first thing is scripts matter. Scripts matter, guys, but not as much as you think they do. And before I get into scripts, if this is helpful in any way, just drop a 1 in the comments. Let me get a little bit of engagement. If I'm boring you out of your mind, you can drop a 0. That's fine. I won't boot you out of the Zoom. I promise. Very cool. All right. Put a lot of work and effort into getting this data together this weekend. So awesome. Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right. So scripts matter, but not as much as you think they do. When we first launched this program, and, I think one of my superpowers as an entrepreneur is that I have a ready, fire, aim mentality, right? When I get an idea, I jump on it. And I recently had a quarterly meeting with my leadership team. So I do my quarterlies with my team leads, like a quarterly performance evaluation with them. And then they do it with their departments, right? So I've got a handful of team leads. And one of the questions that I ask them is, do you have any feedback for me of anything that I can improve on? And, telling your boss something that they can improve on takes a lot of guts, right? I mean, they're your boss, right? And I'm very blessed to have great relationships with my team lead. And one of my team leads, Zach, he goes, maybe we don't ready fire so quickly. And it was in response to us launching this concierge program very, very fast. And while we did this and we launched it, we initially offered custom scripts. We said, look, we will learn your script. And then we started getting these scripts. And I'll just be real with you. Some school owners' scripts are awful. They're just awful. And I have a script that I know works because it's from Maya, and it's because, and Maya, Martial Arts Industry Association, been around 20 years, right? They've developed scripts based off of all the feedback that they've gotten from all of our 6-figure and 7-figure schools. And what we recognized is customizable scripts. When you've got, 15 clients, an agent can handle 15 clients, and there's 15 different programs. And just think all the different programs you guys have in your school, right? All the different styles, fitness, kickboxing, judo, jujitsu, all of these things. Remembering 15 different programs, 15 different offers, 15 different, we couldn't do it. So we had to go back and we had to say, listen, we know the scripts that work. You're hiring us to book the appointment. We will get the pertinent information that you need. I think every school owner wants to know, what is the benefits? What are the benefits that that family is looking for? So when they come in, it makes your job enrolling them much easier, right? We need all of the logistical information, name, email, phone number, how old is the kid? Have they tried martial arts before? But sticking to this very specific custom script that all of these school owners had, it just wasn't working. And when we put our foot down and said, look, this is the script that we know works, this is what our team is trained on, and this is what we're doing, it has allowed us to increase our conversion. Because when we first started Concierge, they were converting at around 60 to 70%. So as they've done this and as they've gotten this script down better and better, their lead to appointment ratio has improved as well. Okay. So scripts matter, but not as much as you think they do. There's a few things you absolutely need to make sure that are happening on the phone call. We need to know, is it for the person that's calling or a child, and what that kid's age is, right? Have they ever done martial arts before, or is this something new? what are the benefits that they are hoping to gain from the training, and then how our specific programs provide the benefits that they're looking for, and then whatever the promotion is, right? We need to have some form of call to action. And whether that's, they're offering a free one-on-one intro or a free group lesson. And then if they do ask for prices, which is a totally normal question for people to ask, guys. And if you beat around the bush on this, or only say, I can only go over that in person, man, that's gonna, that just really kills the trust. So what we do is we really focus on whatever the trial offer is. And if they continue to persist and ask more about, okay, well, what happens after the trial, then we provide a range, right? Because a lot of schools offer different monthly payments depending on how much money was put down towards the cost of that program. So scripts matter, but they don't matter as much as you think they do, okay? The second thing that we've learned is close-ended text messages work best. When somebody opts into your website, does your website let you know what they were interested in? So if it was like they opted into the kids program, it'll say that it's a kids lead. If they opt in, yes or no, put that in the chat for me. Yes, my website tells me, or no, my website doesn't. Exactly, right? So what we found was the better question, as opposed to, hey, we saw that you were interested in our kids martial arts program. How old is your child, or what are the benefits that you are looking for? The better question was just asking, are you interested for yourself or a kid? Even though we already knew the answer to that. For whatever reason, it just prompted conversation via text easier than asking like, what are the benefits that you're looking for, or what is the age of the child? So even though we already knew the answer, that has been the best leading text message question that we found. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Next thing, weekend leads have to be followed up with Monday first thing, okay? When I started Gracie Pack, my cell phone was the actual school's cell phone. Anybody ever have that when you started your business, right? So wherever you go, because it's your phone, the business phone goes. And I would literally be sitting at Sunday brunch with my family, the school phone rings, and I'm picking it up. And I do believe in the entrepreneurial world, we all go through these ebbs and flows where you're going to be grinding and hustling. And when you're trying to pay rent, you're going to pick up the phone no matter what time it's ringing, right? But we get to a certain place where I wanted to have some form of work-life balance. And I don't think it's fair to ask my program director to be responsible for answering the phone 24/7, because she's not going to have any work-life balance, okay? So most schools aren't, responding later in the afternoon on Saturdays and Sundays. So the first thing that you've got to do, and this is what our agents do when they come in on Monday, is they're responding to all of those leads first thing, 9 a.m. Okay. And if you guys think, if your program director is coming in at 12 or 1 or 2, how much time is there really for them to be reaching out consistently with the leads that come in the weekend? All right. So it's the very first thing that we do Monday morning. Okay. Next thing, offers matter, guys. All right. You cannot outmarket, you cannot outscript a bad offer. And what we have seen as most successful to booking the appointment is not hiding that there's some form of a paid trial. And not all of our clients offer a free one-on-one or free group class, but the majority of them do. And this allows us to book the appointment easier, and then using automations to ensure that they show up, and then making sure you're making a confirmation call. I had my agents pull their top performing offers, meaning the schools that had the highest lead to appointment ratio. And these were the ones that we found. 2 weeks for $20 with a uniform, 2 weeks for $29 with a uniform, 3 weeks for $39 with a uniform, something about alliteration and marketing that works, 4 weeks for $49. I thought this was insane. That school that I showed you up here, that had the 101 appointments booked, they are based in California, and their offer is 7 weeks for 79 with a uniform. That was an outlier to me. I was really surprised to see that, that school booking that many appointments for them, that was their offer. And then a 30-day fast pass for 99 included the uniform and belt. So these were the top performing offers in regards to lead to appointment booking ratio. Okay. Last up, timing of calls. And I kind of already covered this in regards to the pie chart, but 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the busiest for phone calls. And then those calls start to dip down. And our agents then start focusing on text message outreach, because oftentimes it's the people that don't answer in the morning. They're the ones that are texting us back later on in the day. All right. To wrap up here, I wanted to go over a couple of surprising statistics that I found when I did this. I was able to pull a report of all of the inbound Facebook messages and Instagram messages from all of our clients. So this is everybody that was using high level. I pulled it from. Schools are averaging 16 inbound Facebook messages. So like individual Facebook messages that people are sending, and 12 and a half inbound Instagram messages. And I was really surprised at that. I thought that was pretty high. Now, probably 5 of them is some merchandiser in Pakistan that wants to get your business with their custom stuff. We all get those Facebook messages, but I thought that stat was really interesting. I just thought that was pretty high, which means you guys have got to be answering your Facebook messages, right? Facebook and Instagram messages and DMs often like go into that black hole, because it's not on whoever. There's not a clear responsibility of who is responsible for answering that, and they're not doing it on a daily basis. One of the things that's really important to know is if you are running messenger ads, you only have 24 hours to respond to that message before you are no longer able to respond. This is a newer feature that Facebook launched. So you've got to make sure that you are on top of responding to those Facebook messages. And then the last kind of surprising stat, which it wasn't surprising, it was just, cool to see. I took all of the data for our CAP clients, or Concierge Agent Program clients, and I wanted to see the average number of calls to book the appointment and the average number of text messages to book the appointment. And it was a little over 6 calls to book the appointment. And the average number of texts, and this is important, it was almost 15, but that counts both text messages going back and forth, all right? And if you add those up, that can be anywhere between 13 to 20 total touch points in order to book the appointment, which is in line with what that Harvard Business Study said, okay? So guys, I bring you back to my initial point that math is the path. And I hope what you do is you take away, some of these stats and look to see how you can level up your lead follow-up. I don't think our industry has a lead problem. I think our industry has a lead conversion problem. And it's often due just to we're not consistent enough. We don't have maybe the tech stack that allows us and reminds us, hey, it's day 5, we need to do this, or hey, it's, day 2, we need to call again. And we just kind of haven't figured that out. And I am literally on a mission. And what I can't wait to do is to do this webinar again in about 6 months from now with even more data to see if any of this has shifted. But fortune is in the follow-up. This is proven with the number of outreaches that we're doing, the time periods that we are calling. And I just want you to consider maybe making some changes into when you are doing that lead follow-up outreach, okay? I hope everybody has a phenomenal Thanksgiving. We'll get the recording and the slides emailed out to you by the end of the day. I appreciate your time, and everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.